Yeah. Yeah. Guess who came back with a large fucking fist to eat the Brooklyn blast furnace? I brought your ugly bitch with me. Your shit is sus. Ain't nobody trying to hear you talk. When Jimmy's on the mic, they take your whack shit and turn it off. It's real life, not them stories that you punks say. He made it out alive, and he's relatively unscathed. So subscribe to the podcast and share the post and tell your stupid friends to do the same. You heard it here from Coast.
That's it. We're doing it. Another episode. I don't even know what number it is. I stopped doing the numbers like, I don't know, 100 episodes ago. Another episode of the Brooklyn Blast Furnace podcast with my man over here. I've been wanting to get you on here for like a long time because I know your history with the wrestling, but especially early days of hardcore music and SFT records and all that stuff. So without further ado, my man Kevin Gill, the OG Kevin Gill.
What up, though?
What up, though? What I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna miss some shit.
Sure, whatever.
100% because you've had your I don't know how many things you've been involved in, but it's a lot. So I mean, SFT records. Yeah, GCW, Juggalo Championship Wrestling. You were on the show. Rockstar Games, West Coast Pro Wrestling. You had your own podcast, the Kevin Gill Show. You're wearing the hat right now, Circle 6 Wrestling. Who you rocking? I mean, you've put out
Outlaw Pro Wrestling.
Go ahead, take it over.
Loud East Pro Wrestling, who are killing it. The man Grim Reaper putting the shit down in New Jersey, and now it's coming to New York.
GCW, wow, I don't even know how, I didn't even say that like second.
You did.
Did I say GCW?
You did.
I said JCW, Juggalo.
I thought you said both.
Maybe I fucking did. I don't know, bro.
Either way, say them all. Ring all the bells.
Yeah, ring all the bells. You were in the New York Hardcore Documentary. Have to throw that out there.
Yeah, well, it used to be an independent pizzeria. Now it's like a fucking Sbarro's, you know?
Yes. So good, dude. So good. It's crazy that documentary is almost 30 years old.
It is wild, man. And shout out to Frank Pavich, or Frank Pavic, as Mike from District 9 says, who made that film, Labor of Love. And this is back, pre-digital. It's so easy to make a film or a documentary now. This was like literally to edit, they're cutting film with a fucking razor blade, like wrestling, and assembling the pieces of film together and make a fucking movie. Like that's crazy. And buying the film and buying scraps of film to shoot on, like that's a whole thing. And that whole movie, the spark that started all that was I met Frank, and he had a Sex and Violence tape that I wanted, and I had a bunch of stuff he hadn't heard, so we started making tapes and stuff for each other. And all the tapes I gave him are the bands that became the New York almost. Some of them are bands he picked out, right. But the core of the New York Hardcore Documentary were bands I sent him on these tapes of gave to him on these tapes. Like that's what kind of sparked. And that idea of I was just the gatekeeper or the conduit, you know what I mean, that plugged him into my level of access or my part of the world. But to see someone just come into hardcore and like dive headfirst into it and experience it and love it and see it for what it is, and not being able to understand how this vibe and message and lifestyle isn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, documented or seen more or given its proper due or whatever. So I know that was his whole passion behind doing it, and I'm honored to be in it. That to me is crazy. Sometimes to this day, like I'll be at a show or something, and I'll go even in California, wherever, and I'll show my ID to get in or to buy a drink or something. I've had the bartender be like, Kevin Gill from the New York Hardcore Documentary, and just give me my money back and buy me the drink or whatever. Or
it's awesome.
Even let me into the show or whatever. I'm like, all right, dope, yo. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I could use the kickback, for the
little royalties every now.
Yeah, I love that shit more. Please, everybody, never feel funny about doing that shit.
Yeah, 100%.
It's the best. It's the best feeling ever, and you know what I mean. A lot of times it's like, yo, thank you. This $10 beer was not in my budget, but I'm glad it was in yours.
Exactly. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know how many countless times I've watched that. Either was it snippets of it, I had the DVD, the whole thing all the way through.
And did you get that the 10 years later with the second disc?
Yes,
that one to me is extra hype.
Yeah, of course I did, man.
And what's funny is the same way I watched that movie a million times too. But before that movie, I watched Sick of It All, Agnostic Front, and Gorilla Biscuits live in New York City.
Live in New York City, 91, a million times.
Over and over and over and over and over. And even like Vinny, rest in peace, from No Redeeming Social Value, he starts saying some of the dialogue from that film in the New York hardcore film. You ever try to buy the album? It's hard.
It's hard.
You know, now you got these 6-foot barricades. But I love that film. The same thing. I know almost all the dialogue from that.
So
I just love it.
All of it, dude. In between the whole, bro. Between Roger and Craig ahead, all that shit.
Yeah, the mostly silent Craig ahead, just like
so. Yeah, but now Craig doesn't shut up.
Right. He's been unleashed.
Blah, 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 all the time. If you listen to a couple episodes back, I had Lou from Sick of It All on for the second time. He was
nice. He's the best.
He's the greatest dude ever. That was like I had him on twice solo, and then once I had the whole band minus Pete, plus Jerry Farley, at the studio.
Super producer Jerry Farley.
Yeah, we were all at the studio when they were recording the last record. So we all eating fucking square fucking pizzas.
Yes.
And me and Craig are drinking espresso and shit. It's the whole thing. But me and Lou, the last time we start out, and Lou just jumps right in because they had like this behind the scenes like rivalry of how many people are listening to my episode with each person.
Oh,
on.
yeah.
And Craig got like so many, and then it like got more than Lou, and then Craig is giving him shit. So then Craig wants to come back on to talk more about himself.
Right.
Pizza and about Amore Pizza in Queens and those whole shit. Yeah.
Get those pizza hits, man. Pizza hits are worth a lot nowadays.
Yeah, no shit.
Craig should have a pizza podcast and a boxing podcast.
He absolutely should. 100%.
Like 15-minute long episodes free for the public, but then you get the full 4-hour unplugged Craig.
Yes.
On the
like
Patreon.
Patreon, 100%. Yeah, great guys. One of, if not my favorite hardcore band ever.
Fuck yeah.
I mean,
they're the gods.
Bro, like the hardest working fucking band. And and I'm not sneezing at anybody else. I mean,
sure.
Look at Agnostic Front. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. They're going out I think we're on podcast time, so I think like tonight or tomorrow they're going back out to Europe.
For a big run.
Vinny Stigma's 68 years old, bro.
Yeah, with the heart and mind of a 19-year-old.
A 19-year-old. He's the best dude ever.
He really is.
At like 65, he gets New York hardcore on his head. 66,
a giant man
ball tattoo. Great.
What's next?
I don't know. It doesn't matter what he gets because it's Vinny.
Right.
So
it's officially cool as soon as he does it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Yeah. That New York City 91 video, I've constant rotation for years and years and years.
Oh my God. Yeah, I my only at the time, my only critique of it was like it's shot so tight to the stage that you can't see anything in the audience, really. Yeah. And then like I'm sure you've seen it on YouTube, different shows, same venue, but there's some footage from the back of AF set before SOD, and it's shot from the floor and there's a light on, and it's like, holy fuck. Like if that movie just had either a floor cameraman or set the hard camera further back, it could have, not that you know what I'm saying? Like the video is great in its own right, but just that element, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was not,
it's a show. Every show I had ever been to was, no barricades and people would be on stage and whatever. So it was different to see it. I was at that show, you know what I'm saying? So it was different to see it that way. I still loved it and it was totally cool, but it was so different because the bands in a way have to work even harder because they have nothing, the crowd's going crazy, but you can't see them. You know what I'm saying? Like normally that visual adds a lot. But it's
Yeah.
a brilliant film, or whatever you want to call it, a home video.
It's a home video.
Yeah.
It's a home video. It's
It
great.
could have been called a documentary or a concert film, but instead it is a home
It's a
video.
home video. Yep. I was not at the show. That was a Super Bowl. I think that was Super Bowl 3 or 4. Super Bowl 3 or 4, 91. And then, but I was at the AF show. It was
with SOD.
It was Morbid Angel, SOD,
yeah.
SOD, Agnostic Front, SOD. And that shit was one of the most packed, insane shows I've ever been to.
I made the very strategic decision as a young KG to get me and my OG girl, Barbara, who's in the next room right now, to get us balcony motherfucking seats.
Oh, shit. No, I was in the thick of it.
We were in the balcony, and it didn't seem totally safe. You know what I mean?
I was in the thick of it. It's like the whole crowd. You know how the whole crowd just becomes one.
Yeah, it's like a washing machine.
It's a washing machine, and if the crowd's moving, you're going. The next thing you know, you're deposited 50 feet this way, and you didn't even take like steps on purpose. You know what I mean?
It's crazy that venue, the Ritz, at that location, like the bands I saw there, like, you know, SOD and Agnostic Front, Sick of It All, Gorilla Biscuits, Guns N' Roses, Motorhead, Leeway, Creator, Biohazard, Creator and Suicidal Tendencies.
Yeah.
Shows like that just are like, and there's a lot I'm forgetting, but that's like the caliber of shows. The caliber of shows at that time, you know, and there'd be an insane amount of people. Like the Ritz held a lot of people.
Yeah, and it was jam packed, bro. That whole time, like I jumped in like 90. I saw that was the first time. Well, I went to a couple of shows before that at L'Amour's, and then I stumbled upon. I told the story a million fucking times, but who cares? But I accidentally saw Leeway for the first time. For the first time, opening for Suicidal Tendencies at L'Amour's. It was White Zombie.
Oh my God!
It was White Zombie, Leeway, Suicidal. And
Suicidal and Leeway are two of my all-time favorite bands.
Oh, bro, how could they not be two of the greatest front men ever?
I never got to see them together, man. That's like a dream show.
That was the night. That was like December something of 90, and everyone has that pivotal moment where whatever they were into before, whether you were a punk rock kid or you were a metalhead, I was a metalhead. And then that was the night that started shooting me off into the hardcore stuff because of Leeway that night. The next day, I went to Ciro's CD Cellar in Canarsie, where I was living at the time, and I bought Born to Expire because Desperate Measures was delayed again. It wasn't out yet. So I bought Born to Expire, and Ciro was like, listen, if you like this, then you'll like this. And he handed me Agnostic Front, Liberty, and Justice.
Oh, man.
And that was it. And then I bought Live at CBGB, and then I went in reverse. Victim in Pain, found the Chrome Egg, Sick of It All, and then it was a wrap from there.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, man.
Great bands.
Great bands, great times. And like you were saying, like those times, there was shows, multiple shows every weekend all over the city. We would choose, like, bro, I would grab the Village.
Right.
Everyone else
have to choose sometimes.
Yeah. You would look at who's playing where at the back of the Village Voice. CB's, the fucking Continental, the Marquee, the Ritz, the L'Amour's, all these places. And sometimes I would go to a Sunday matinee and then head to L'Amour's later on, or go.
Wow, the double shot.
Head to Roseland to go see fucking White Zombie and Pantera later on that night.
Fuck.
Great.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man. For like $15 for a ticket to go see
or less.
Pantera on like the Volga display of fucking Power Tour with White Zombie at Roseland. $15. It's crazy.
I saw the flyer come up the other day for that Biohazard record release show at Roseland with Madball and everybody.
I was not there for some reason.
Were tickets like $6 for that?
Yes.
I forget the price. $6.
Yeah.
And obviously they wanted to super pack the place, but they packed a lot of buildings before without it being $6.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it didn't hurt.
Well, there was the infamous Riot show. There was a Riot show at the Palladium.
I was at that.
I was there too. I was there, bro. That was on a Wednesday night. Doors were at like 9 o'clock. It was $12 for a ticket and like 9 bands.
Yeah, Leeway, Nuclear Assault, Murphy's Law, Agnostic Front,
Lunatics.
Lunatics War Zone.
Rights of the Accused, Lunatics, Nuclear Assault, Murphy's Law, Agnostic Front, the Radix.
The Radix and Leeway, right.
Yeah.
Just think about that.
You can't. It's not even normal to think about that.
That's like a festival lineup.
It's a festival lineup, but it was on a Wednesday night in June of '92.
It was a riot.
And it was a riot. I was in the middle of that whole shit. Crazy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. I remember right after it happened, I sought out. I wanted to see it on video. You know what I mean? To see if it was like how I remembered it and what I saw compared to what's on tape. And back in those days, it was Maximum Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
So someone had to add in the Maximum Rock and Roll that they had that show. And I hit them up, and they were in New York. So they were like, "Oh, instead of mailing it, if you want, you could just pick it up." And I'm like, "Okay."
The whole show?
And I go, "Yeah, the whole show."
Wow.
And I on VHS, and I go knock, for like whatever, I gave him $10 or something.
Yeah.
But I go and knock on the door, and this dude with this like bizarre mustache and this terrible hair and shit answers the door, and it's Merle Allen, Gigi Allen's brother.
What the fuck, really?
Yeah, he was like a Maximum Rock and Roll tape distributor. He was in the content, not so much the content creation, but the content distribution game.
Holy shit. Do you still have that? Is it like decent quality? Is it?
It's like, I have to pull it up. It's like, I've watched the version. It's the same version that's on YouTube, but I feel like it's a little better, but maybe that's only the memory.
There's only a couple of things on
YouTube. In theory, he shot it. So if I still have that VHS, my VHS is like a first generation dub from him.
Gotcha. Yeah,
he would shoot a lot of shows.
The Leeway set is on YouTube from that night. They only did 4 songs.
Right. And
Kingpin. It was Kingpin, Wuthering Heights, Make Me an Offer.
All About Dope.
And All About Dope.
And they messed up All About Dope, and like the drums stopped for a while in that part, and then they resumed. That was a rare fuck up for the almighty Pokemon.
Exactly. And Eddie seemed like he was pissed off at the beginning, something with the microphone or something like that. Yeah. It was a shit show. It was a shit show. And I saw like the end portion of the AF set.
Oh yeah.
Kind of cuts off, and then everyone is up on.
There's a cut on the original. There's a cut on or cut or two on the original. There's like a frothing crowd.
Yeah.
Cut. Like everyone's on stage.
Yeah.
Cut. Then there's like a
I was on that stage. I felt like that stage was going to collapse onto my feet.
Me too.
You were on the stage too?
I didn't go on the stage. I thought it was going to collapse though.
That's why bro, that whole thing. I thought it was going to collapse.
But I remember there's like a Ministry song, Thieves and Liars or whatever.
Yes.
They play that through the PA real loud and just as a way to be like, show's over. I remember some dude just grabs the microphone and says, "Fuck that, agnostic front rules," or whatever he says. And then it's like a cut again, and then it's just like melee,
Yep. Crazy.
But yeah, you can see it all unfold, you know what I mean? It's wild shit, man. The history of New York hardcore. I'm honored to have been
too, man.
Accepted into the scene.
What a cool fucking time to be at that age. I'm 48. I'm going to be 49. So I was like 17, 18.
Right.
In the thick of all of that shit, in the limelight at the tunnel.
Same.
It's like
at the wetlands at Coney Island High later, you know what I mean? But you know what I'm saying? So many dope places that all of them were so cool, and they had the best fucking shows that you could ever imagine, and you'd meet all these cool people and go on cool adventures, sometimes get in trouble.
Yeah, sometimes. But what a cool, fortunate, like I think about that, like, what a cool fucking time to be at our age, into the shit we were in at that time in New York City. Even shit like early Lollapalooza shows and shit like that were fucking great, man.
Yeah, see, it's funny. Like my girl went to those shows, but I thought at the time I didn't agree with those shows. I was like, that's like some sellout shit. Yeah, like those bands are playing the corporate Megafest parking lot. That shit sounds corny as fuck to me. But obviously, I was wrong about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all good though, man. But I had great times at that shit, man. Fucking good times.
I was a stickler, man. Like that wasn't the only thing. I didn't go see the first Warped Tour.
I never saw a Warped Tour.
I didn't go to see the first Warped Tour, and I've never paid to see the Warped Tour, but I've gone to a million Warped Tours, and I love and appreciate and respect the Warped Tour. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
at the the very first one, I'm like, yo, this is all my favorite shit, but it's at the Nassau Coliseum parking lot from some sneaker company I'm not familiar with or whatever. Like, what's happening here?
What's happening?
And then another example of that is I remember when Sex Pistols did their reunion and they came to New York and they played Roseland or maybe even 2 nights of Roseland. And as soon as it got announced, my girlfriend was all super excited. And Paulie G, rest in peace, from Six and Violence, he was all excited. And they're like, yo, let's get tickets. And I'm like, tickets? And they're like, yeah, man, when are we ever going to get a chance to see the Sex Pistols? You know, like and I love the Sex Pistols and they love the Sex Pistols. And they're like, so let's get tickets. And I'm like, this isn't the real, like, the real Sex Pistols died when what's his name died or whatever, Sid Vicious.
When Sid Vicious
but
died.
Just some dumb, like just dumb, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've gone back now and watched those shows from that run on
and
YouTube and shit.
You kick yourself in the ass.
Yeah, like, you know, but hey, I stood my moral ground or whatever.
You did.
My moral ground.
How old were you at the time?
Yeah, like, I don't even know. Yeah, like young, super young and opinionated.
Right. Yeah, that says everything. Of course, we were all young.
But that was my way. Like, there was no internet to go right on to complain about something or try to get the band removed from a tour. Instead, I would vote with my dollar. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, oh man, $25. That's like 10 shows.
Yeah, it is. It is
not
like
10, but you know what I'm saying.
Hey, listen, there's been $3 fucking matinee shows, bro. So
yeah,
hey.
I ran one at Wetlands called "It's No Joke Being Broke," and I forget. I feel like it was $3 and change or something. We did like a wacky price.
Yeah, Lamores used to do that all the time. Like Biohazard would play every other fucking weekend. It'd be like
right.
It would be like Biohazard, Mucky Pup, Life of Agony, and Enrage. Here, it's like $8, but if you have this, it's $2 off with this ticket. With this,
and then
flyer.
if you tell them you ran into Evan.
Extra dollar at Lenny and John's Pizza on Flatbush Avenue, and you give it to. It says $2 off with this pants. You give it to him, and you pay $6.
And then it's another $2 off if you're wearing a Biohazard shirt. When
exactly, or a Biohazard sock hat.
Yeah, Biohazard sock hat's available now.
Yeah, exactly.
Pick it up, Danny. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but bro, like SFT, bro. What made you start? Here's my interview question. What made you start SFT Records? If people don't know, you should know this, but it's Striving for Togetherness Records. Just for the kids that aren't hip yet.
Sure. Well, like we alluded to before, like I got discovered hardcore for myself, you know what I mean, and got to go see bands like Sick of It All at CBGBs and stuff like that, and then fell in love with all that that level of bands, the Sick of It All, Leeway, Gorilla Biscuits, Agnostic Front, you know, Killing Time, like those were like the big four. I know it's more than four, man. But you know what I'm saying.
You can throw Shit Terror in there.
What's that?
You can throw Shit
Terror.
Sure,
yeah, they're icons. But for like my super favorite shit that I would just play over and over and over again from New York, it would be that shit. And then as you got at that time too, a lot of those bands got really big. So then it's not like they're playing New York every Saturday and people are out touring all the time. And then, you start discovering the underneath, like what's underneath these big bands, like what's down more on the street level or whatever, of bands that draw 75 people or 100 people instead of at that time 1,300 people.
Right.
So I got to be friendly with a band called Without a Cause. Okay. And they were like to me a trailblazing New York hardcore band, because they were just like dudes that loved hardcore. They weren't connected to anyone, you know what I mean? They just were dudes that loved hardcore, and they didn't know how to like be inside the world of hardcore, so to speak. Like, because there's hardcore, like we're all like fucking sick of it all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you're them and you're playing in a Chinese restaurant with 4 people and only one of them's getting Chinese food. You know what I'm saying? So getting to meet those guys and getting to go see them a bunch of times got me interested in like, well, wait a minute. These guys are pretty good. Why are they not doing? And when they play, though, it's not like no one cares. Like, there'd be people who come for them and people who know the words. And I'd be like, why don't these guys have anything out? Why don't they get to play the good shows or bigger shows or whatever?
Yeah.
So hanging out with them, I met a guy named Jeff Morloss or whatever, however you say it. He was the So he looked like the blonde surfer or blonde thrash metal character.
Nice.
And I would talk to him and all the other guys, and I would. So I asked them, like, what, why aren't you playing good shows, or why are you doing this? And they're like, bro, fucking you tell me. Like, what the fuck? Can you do something?
Yeah.
So I was like, so I started reaching out to all these every independent record label I could find. And I also did it with some venues and stuff, but that was for like that was to get them a show with Leeway and DRI and these things, because as opposed to playing, with no one famous.
Right.
But I sent out their shit to all these fucking record labels, like over 100. And pretty much none of them answered. But one guy answered, was this guy Udo from Germany.
Yeah.
And Udo had at that time, what was it? He had just put out a few records, like 2 or 3 records under the name SFT. And like they were looking for what their 4th record would be. So and their records were, I think they did a head first, I forget what, there was like a X Marks the Spot reissue, a head first 7-inch, which I think was like a new one-off. And
up front.
Yeah, and up front, that was also a reissue.
Yeah,
I think. So I think there was like there was a German band too called Choose X, who we got to go play with no redeeming and stuff over there, and they were very cool guys. But
the Romp.
The point of all this was he was the one person who wrote back like, "Yo, this shit is dope." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He gave what I would consider the appropriate response, which was, "Yo, this shit is dope. Like, what do you think we could work out for me to put this out over here?" So I start negotiating on the band's behalf via fucking written letter. You know what I mean?
Mail. These kids don't know no email. There's no messenger texting now.
I don't have the best handwriting. So I got to write extra slow just to be like, hey.
Yeah.
So going back and forth with him, he then asked me if I would distribute SFT records in the United States as a way to, because they were just a tiny label in a small town in Germany that had done a few reissues and an original.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah. So we started with Without a Cause, and then he wanted to put out. I had a band at the time called Stick Figure, not to be confused with the modern Stick Figure, and Jimmy G from Murphy's Law does guest vocals on a song. That's a whole story. But so anyway, he put out the Without a Cause record, and he put out the Stick Figure record, and then I was distributing those records and his other records here. And then at that point, we just became partners on the label. So we were like just partners, because at that time, in the beginning, he could press the records and knew how to do all that shit. But then I'm in fucking New York City. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
bands, outlets, whatever. But then after a short while, and you can tell when, then he was still very much a part of it, but I took over in terms of just running it 100% out of New York, fronting all the money for everything, pressing all the records, like everything we did. And there was glimpses of her in the hardcore documentary. My girl Barbara, she's a graphic designer, production artist, whatever. But she would be sitting there laying out all the CDs and records and ads and shirts and all that shit. And we just did everything from New York. So that's that whole run. I forgot how does the order go? 4 was Without a Cause. I think maybe it starts with 8. I think 8 was 25 to Life, District 9, VOD, something, Shutdown, Fahrenheit, 6 of Violence. Like that's my run of running, whatever you want to say. And then it's great having Udo as a partner, because he's in fucking Europe, and guess who loves New York hardcore? Euro fucking Peons.
Yeah,
so
man.
You had a place people could order stuff, you know what I mean? So it was all good.
Yeah.
And when we went over there to tour, he would look out for us and stuff. So
beautiful.
But basically that's like the shoot story, like just my desire to like help friend or see people that I thought had talent and people I consider to be friends. Like what are these guys not doing? And is it somehow something I could do?
Right,
you know what I mean?
sure.
That would help. And I did help Without a Cause, and then it kind of turned into just on a bigger scale. But then you're dealing with bands who, like VOD or whoever,
but one of my favorites, man.
Oh God, who already can get shows. Although, fun fact, and I love to toot my own horn, especially for hardcore history purposes.
That's fine. Yeah.
So VOD, as mind-blowingly great as they are and were at that time too, like they could not get booked in Manhattan. And I don't know if it was politics or what goes on, but they could not, they were dying to play Manhattan.
And it's
So
like
when-
they're from Long Island, so it's like
I know.
right there. You could walk there if you had a little ambition, you know.
So I used to do shows at Wetlands and Coney Island High and shit, but it was Wetlands for them. And I was like, "Yo, I'm doing a show at and they're just like, in Manhattan, you know, like, but they couldn't believe that I somehow broke through this thing. But I only broke through because I would always say to all the bands at the time, like, guys, like individually, none of us have any clout. Like these guys were playing in a Chinese restaurant. You guys couldn't play in Manhattan. These guys can't book a rehearsal room, and these guys, whatever. Yeah. But together, we are able to do a lot more, because then if I'm renting out the venue, so to speak, I'm the promoter. Well, then guess what? All you guys can play and have the appropriate slots and times and strong support acts and all that. Like, we can control that. But then that means when one of us gets a leg up, they have to pull a little bit on the person behind them. You know what I mean? Who can then pull someone else up, like, because that unity, dare I say, it's it's a real thing, but it gives you leverage. And I'm not saying don't do business unless it lifts up. So, you know what I mean? I'm just saying is like, you just do things with that shit in mind. And when that this opening slot comes up and you're like, hey, what about this band? Or what, you know, like, you know what I'm saying?
Of course, I know what you're saying.
And some people get that, and some people, I think, you know, at the time get caught up in the gaga of it. You know what I mean? Because I'm caught up in it in the sense of like, I put out the records and all this shit, but they're the people on stage and living it and doing it. And then, you know, they're just like me or bands, whatever. Not everyone's mind is always in the right place. So, you know, but overall, I have no regrets on how it all went. You know what I'm
man, there's some fucking legendary shit, bro. Bro, you put out the Still EP. I mean, come on.
Still EP, and have back to back the Still EP and the District 9.
Bro.
No, wait.
Two Hard Knocks.
And I know now 25 to Life has a different place in history in a lot of people's minds.
They do because of Rick. But if you take the blah 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 and the whole drama surrounding that guy, and just
zoom in. Let's just look at 1998 or 95 through 98.
Bro, they
or 95 through 97.
Everybody fucking liked that band. Everyone. I did. I used to blast that shit. Obviously, his voice is an acquired taste, but
I still love it like that. The record we put out, the self-titled, I love that. I had no idea what the fuck he was saying. You know, like
it's great. It's like, what the fuck? But for some reason, I like it. I don't know.
But I loved it because it had the. I still remember the little. Back when you would do ads in the magazines and stuff, like what we would call catalog ads, where you might have a couple of records across, you know, the bottom, like 4 different record covers, and you'd put like a little short sentence about each one. I forget what it said. Like, what is something about like the hard, like Slayer through a hardcore filter with a touch of something, because that. Or with the spirit of Agnostic Front. I'm not saying the words as smooth as they were, because they can only be like 7 words.
You're paraphrasing, I get it.
But that was how that 25 to Life record was described. Because just that the opening song with the fucking double bass and the fucking you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And the Agnostic Front style lyrics at times and vocal delivery.
And his vocal delivery for sure. I mean, on their first like full length, was it Friendship, Loyalty, Commitment? Yeah, there was features by everybody. Roger was on there, Freddie Marble was on there, Paul Bearer was on there, Jimmy G was on there. It's like they blew up for a long time, man, and I was there for it. You know what I mean?
I always thought at the time that Rick should have pivoted into like, he could have been like the host of the Tonight Show, or like a television personality, a film star. Like, his look and his charisma and all that stuff was so strong. Obviously, on the business side of things or whatever else happened with him, you know, again, everyone has faults and everyone makes mistakes and whatever. But within all that, or aside from all that, there was still such a charismatic dude and a colorful dude. And you saw that in that New York hardcore documentary. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, he's like endearing, you know, because we're all scrubs in a way. Like, sometimes people get caught up in, I think, being the like, oh, like I'm the ultimate male, or like, oh, like look at my ass, look at this, look at that. But at the end of the day, like, we're all scrubs in a sense, you know what I mean? So it's kind of cool when, you know what I'm saying, the coolest guy around at the moment is the biggest scrub. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but
I get what you're saying. I get it.
It
You
gives
said
it
the ultimate
authenticity.
male, so of course, all of a sudden I think Thunder Lips.
Yeah, the ultimate meatball.
Of course.
That movie was so great. That movie changed everything.
Oh, bro,
Put Hulk Hogan on the map.
Bro, I saw that shit. It was like opening day. I remember I was with my biological father, and we were getting a haircut somewhere. It was somewhere in Brooklyn. I don't remember exactly where, but it was not in our normal place. And we leave, and we look down the block, and there was a movie theater, and it was packed outside. It was the middle of the day.
Wow.
And we were like, oh, it was Rocky 3 just got released, and I saw it in the theaters like opening day.
Wow.
And I was a huge wrestling fan at the time. Obviously, I didn't have cable yet, you know. Cable,
sure. So at that time we didn't really get to see Hulk Hogan. That was the first time people really saw him, unless they had cable.
Right. Well, I would just know everything from Saturday Night fucking Superstars of Wrestling on Saturday morning, bro. I would
right.
You know, you're not allowed to say it anymore, but I used to sit there Indian style and watching the TV. And my mother, she used to work in Kings Plaza in Brooklyn, and whenever she would get paid, and she would always buy me whatever wrestling magazines had come out.
Oh, hell
or Wrestling Illustrated, this one, that one, whatever it was. She didn't know the difference. She said, oh, the new wrestling, whatever is out. And she would bring
there's a bloody guy on a cover pulling at another guy's face.
Yeah, 100%. Carlos Colon and Abdullah the Butcher are bloody messes. Like, amazing. But that's how I started to learn about the territories and this and that. I was like, who is this Magnum TA guy? Nick Bockwinkel, this guy, that guy. And at the Road Warriors and all this shit. But that was only through magazines as a little kid. You know what I mean?
When cable came to my area, at the time it arrived in Queens, I got like 38 and a half hours or something of wrestling a week at that time. And that included the WWE stuff, WWF stuff, but it also included Polynesian Pro from Hawaii, World Class from Texas, the Mid-Atlantic, what later became WCW, but Mid-Atlantic, Jim Crockett Presents.
Yeah.
I would get the Florida wrestling on Channel 47 in the UHF, but I would get to watch all this different shit, and it was just so incredible at that time, like to be able to see, like, oh, that's where I've been wondering what happened to the Wild Samoans.
Oh,
here they are. They're wrestling in Hawaii. Like, no wonder.
Yeah, so crazy. But I'm sure you remember, because I do. It was October 14th, 1984. And the reason 84? Is it 84? 83.
Oh, I think it's 83. I'm just a prediction.
It might be 83. The only reason why is because, not to get off topic, but I just recently wrote an entire book about my entire life. And I went back and I found it was it was Hulk Hogan, Big John Studd was the main event. But
so 84 then, probably. Because I feel
Hogan
like
was champion.
Yeah, I feel like I always get the year mixed up, but he won the title on like Sheik won it on like December 26th or something, and then Hogan won it on like January 4th.
I watched that on the big screen at like the smaller spot. What was it called?
The Felt Forum.
The Felt Forum. I watched that at the Felt Forum on the big screen. Yeah, man. So anyway, so that was my and the reason why I brought that up is because you just mentioned the Samoans. And I remember it was me and my father and his half brother, my Uncle Ronnie. We were driving, and I guess I was so little, but we were driving and we were looking for a parking spot underneath in the parking garage. And I'm sitting in the back seat, and we're slowly going because there's a line of people trying to find a spot. And I look out my left fucking window because I'm behind the driver's seat, my father. And I look up, and there's both of the fucking Samoans.
Holy shit.
With regular clothes on and like bags in their hands. And I'm just like,
wow.
It's the wild Samoans. Like, they were like mythical creatures, bro.
Same. One time, back in the day, in Whitestone, Queens, WWF, believe it or not, used to run shows in this high school gym. And it sounds like I'm making it up, but you can look this up.
Oh, I believe you.
In Whitestone, dude, this place couldn't have held 500 people. I saw Roddy Piper wrestle there, like all kinds, Iron Sheik, everybody. But they were WWF shows. And if you watch the old footage from the 80s, there'll be those little voiceovers dropped in, like, fans, don't forget this Tuesday night in Westchester.
Yes, I love
the Giants will be at the high school. You know, it was that kind of shit. But
old ladies are all lined up. Everyone's smoking cigarettes. It's crazy, bro.
So I was going over. Someone was bringing me over to this high school gym in Whitestone, Holy Cross High School, to get tickets like the afternoon of the show. And as we're driving down this really like a tight street, it's like not that wide. And we're driving down the street one way, and the other way down the street, as they get closer, it becomes patently obvious. Captain Lou Albano is driving this van, and one of the Wild Samoans is in the passenger seat. God knows who's in the back. And then, and I'm like, it's like, stop the car. You know what I mean?
Dude.
And they're just like, you know, my family's like, what are you, insane? And then they're like, what are you talking about? And then as the van pulls by, that shit was like a custom van. So it's not like a giant graphic that said the Wild Samoans, but it had like images of them and stuff, or it had their name on the door, like Captain Lou Albano and the Wild Samoans.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a full graphic wrap like we're accustomed to now, but it was a...
It was like a little company van type deal on the side.
So then like we hit like a traffic light, and I'm like, turn around, and we finally get the car turned, but we couldn't find the graphic van. But man, I loved Captain Lou Albano.
Me too.
You can't see it, but there's a signed picture of Lou Albano on the wall behind me.
I met my buddy. Does Mike Cruel ring a bell? Mike Cruel was the OVW champion for.
Oh wow.
He was.
Oh, you talking about Cruel?
Mike,
like he's really big. Like
no.
Okay.
He's an Italian. He's an Italian guy from Ridge.
Sorry,
but
there's a guy named Cruel with a K that's like a 7 foot tall guy that's been around.
No, it's Mike. His real name is Mike Mayo, and his name is Mike Cruel, and he was down in Florida, this and that.
Yeah, at OVW.
He wound up having a couple of matches for Vince during the WWE, but whatever. But his father, I don't remember his name, and if he's listening to this, he's fucking gonna scream at me. But his father was he was pretty well known, but he was friends with all those guys, Greg Valentine, all that, and he used to book shows in the neighborhood. So there was a whole big thing where I saw Jimmy Superfly Snuka, but I felt really bad though, because he was old. This is like 2006 or 7, and he was kind of old, and he did the Superfly, but it was off the middle rope. I was like,
he adjusted for the times.
He had to adjust. He ain't calling audible, but there was like a big meet and greet. So like I met like Captain Lou, Jimmy Snuka.
Oh my god, dude!
Yeah, Captain Lou, Jimmy Snuka, Tito Santana.
I've met Jimmy Snuka and refereed matches for Jimmy Snuka and for Tito Santana in my referee days.
As far as wrestling goes, I was never a big Tito Santana fan because I was a huge Greg the Hammer fan.
Oh God! Well, you know Greg
that rivalry, bro.
Yes, legendary. You know, because you mentioned it, that ICP theater show that they used to have on Fuse TV. Mm-hmm. Greg Valentine was like one of the co-hosts with me on that show. So that would be my job. I would sit next to Greg Valentine and get paid. And we had that whole snack area we were set up in. So we had like live snacks and just riffing.
Crazy.
All improv. You know, we didn't have any of that stuff prepared. We would just improv everything.
Yeah. I met him at a convention too. I met him and who else? Who the fuck else did I meet? Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who was
God. He's great. A legend. A true icon, a great guy. And I love about wrestlers of that era, and you know this if you met them, like when you talk to them, first of all, they're giants, even now.
Yeah.
2, if you notice them, like if they take out their pen to write something down or get out their phone, their fist is like this big.
Giant.
Jim Duggan, Greg Valentine, all those dudes, their fist is just like this big thing, like, hey, Kevin, what's going on? You know?
Yeah, man.
It's crazy.
It is, man. I was so all in back in the day. And then life happens, and like I kind of, it was, which was the WrestleMania, which was the Mega Powers exploded was which one, 5?
I forget the numbers. Yeah, 5 or 6.
Was
something.
That before or after the tournament?
Yeah, I'm the worst at those historical.
So whichever was the
questions.
later one was like the last WrestleMania that I kind of watched for a long time. I was out
Totally.
at hardcore shows. I
Of
discovered
course.
drinking and drugs and partying
Yeah.
and all that
The
shit.
same thing happened to me. I was super into it, and then the shit started with records, girls,
Yeah.
everything, all
Yeah.
this other stuff to do. And at the same time, the wrestling product being put out was no longer appealing to me because it was like, oh, I'm the wrestling garbage man. Like, oh, I'm the
Yeah.
wrestling guy who's gross. Like, it
Yeah.
became this kiddie cornball shit. So
Yeah.
then I remained out of it basically the exact time from when I started putting out SFT stuff, which is in '92 till like '96, because I heard this buzz about ECW, and people kept telling me that they're like, bro, I'm like, look, they're like, I know what you like, the old school wrestling, what we would call like Mid-Atlantic and Florida wrestling and all that. They're like, yeah, like you're gonna love ECW. So me and Dave Miranda from Six and Violence and my girl, that was my first ECW show.
I never went to one.
Our first ECW show was one show after Mick Foley had just done his last show. So the previous show was Mick Foley's last show, and this was like 2 weeks later. Because I walked in and on the merch table they had Mick Foley like 8x10s, and I was a huge Cactus Jack fan, and I'm like, oh my god, because I didn't know much about ECW, and I'm like, Cactus Jack, like, oh my god. They're like, oh yeah, his last show was 2 weeks ago. I was like,
oh fuck.
But no regret. The ECW shit was fucking incredible. Man.
Yeah. So I was like completely out of the loop, and then I started dating this girl in like the late '90s, like end of '98, and I went to her house one night. And her uncle and aunt lived downstairs with her cousins, and the uncle was upstairs, and her father was there, and a couple of her cousins and her brother. And we just walked into, I don't know, for something like to go back out or whatever, and they were going crazy in the living room. And I'm like, and I look over, and it's like the middle of the Attitude Era. Like I walk in there, and they're going nuts, and I'm looking at the crowds, and it's like Stone Cold and Yokozuna was there, and they are going crazy. And I was so out of the loop. I'm like, wrestling is I knew it was still around, but I didn't think it was as giant.
Like.
I'm like, holy shit! Like I have no idea. So I started watching like a little bit, and then I got all fucked up and whatever. And I watched a little bit again in like 2004, 5. And then I kind of been out, but I look here and there. I'm not all in because I have 94 things going on. So it's like I wish I had the time to be able to sit there and watch and pay attention, but I just don't. But I always loved all that shit, man. But I know it's completely different product now, and
yeah, and it's still great.
There's no more color. There's no more bleeding.
Well, you'd be surprised like what goes on now. Yeah, like it's a ever evolving thing, and right now between the independents, AEW, and then Impact, New Japan, whoever, and then of course WWE on top, you'd be surprised. Like there's quite a bit of blood. Even WWE.
Well, that's what I mean. Like WWE, there was like, oh yeah, that's what I mean.
For a long time, they didn't use any ever. It was like a hardcore. No, absolutely not.
Right.
And as of late, I'm not saying every show, but on a rare occasion when it would give extra emphasis, like they've used it again, which I think is good, just because it does. I don't know. It's like just like long hair, blood adds something to wrestling. You know what I mean? There was also a time when they got obsessed with that, like nobody could have long hair, and it's like, brother, just like being in a band. Ask any singer who has long hair that has full long hair if they would rather have that as a stage accessory or not. Of course they want. It looks good. You could do less. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
You could hide if you're talking. You look more fucked up. It's just, it's everything.
Yeah. So I had a while back, I was in between like my last job that I had, and I gave my 2 weeks notice, and the job that I have now, I'm with over 5 years, but I had my 2 weeks. So this was before I was doing this on Zoom. So I was like, you know what? I have a couple of friends in Philly. So I went to Philly and I did 3 podcasts in a day. So
I did that once, but I did it all with the same guest, and it was Sean X-Pac Waltman. And we did like 9.5 hours or something of. So that's 3 back-to-back episodes of the Kevin Gill Show, if anyone wants to Google it or whatever. And here,
that's awesome.
it's insane how in depth we got in that time. But it's like you could write a book about him from it. But I digress. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
I said the parallels are funny to me.
Yeah. So I go and I knock on. I don't remember the name of the tattoo shop. And I opened the door. He's like, "Oh, I was sleeping." And I sat down for like an hour and a half, and I had a crazy ass conversation with Schlack.
Oh wow,
bro,
that's wild. I didn't meet Schlack until like several years ago, but it was a long time coming.
Yeah, this is about 5 years ago or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe that's around the time I first met him. But I always remember I always heard about him and everything. And then I was
nuts, bro.
I was booked on a wrestling show that he was booked on. So I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to be on a show with this guy, Schlack. And then, in my mind, I'm like, oh, this guy's probably just like a fucking animal. You know what I mean? I'm probably just going to be like, hey, what's up, bro? And he's just going to be like vomiting in the dressing room or whatever.
Right.
So it was a show where like the promoter could like bring in their own liquor and, sell beer and all that shit. So I'm standing over by this big stack of, Costco all liquor and beer and everything, and I'm standing there, and I forget I was doing something. I don't know if I was about to start like cutting the bottles out of the little cases and putting them. I don't know what I was doing, but I was doing something like in an official capacity. And then Schlack, who I don't know, comes over, and because he sees what I'm doing, and he's just like, hey, you think he's like, you think you can give me a hand for a minute or something? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, oh, I'm Schlack. And like I shook hands with him. I'm like, oh, I'm Kevin. He's like, oh yeah, I know you. I was like, oh, I know you. And then he's like, can you open that bottle of Jack Daniels or whatever? There's like a big handle of it right there. And I'm, in my mind, I'm like, all right, well, normally I wouldn't open it, but I could just like, he wants it open. So, all right, what do you want it open? Sure.
Yeah.
And plus it's like our liquor, whatever.
Yeah.
So I just open it, and then I'm holding the bottle, and he takes out a syringe and puts the syringe in the bottle, and then pulls the handle back, so the syringe is now full of Jack Daniels or whatever. And I'm like, oh, and he's like, cool. And then he's like, since we broke the seal, he goes and grabs 2 little cups, and he's like, let's have a toast to new friends or whatever. And I'm still kind of like, this is so funny. Like, what is he going to do with this syringe full of Jack Daniels? So we have a shot of Jack Daniels or whatever. Good to meet you. And then I'm like, hey, what's up with the thing? He's like, oh, I'm glad you asked. Like, in the match tonight, whatever, boom, 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 boom. And then it's really important. Like, I'm going to fucking stab, or whoever's getting stabbed. Someone's getting stabbed with a needle, and it's getting injected into them. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, so you're just going to literally just inject, or someone's getting just Jack Daniels injected into their muscle? Like that's possible? Like I never really thought about
I don't know how that works either.
And they're like, he's like, yeah, it just fucks you up for like a second. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay. But it was very important for me to know as the commentator, because no one knew that was the big finale. So I forget who was doing commentary with me, but they're going on and on about some other thing that's happening, and I'm just like, what's in that syringe? You know what I mean? Like, because it's like the whole because it's going in. So if you don't see this one moment, you're not going to understand what the fuck happened.
Right.
But I've been very good friends with Schlack ever since.
Yeah, and, it's awesome. Yeah. He had some crazy stories. He's like, the bathroom in my house, it's like a makeshift emergency room. He's
God.
He even said he has a glass jar, and he has a glass jar, and inside are pieces of glass, but
from inside his body.
Yeah, that's the glass that he can't get out of his body. That actually his body eventually
pushes out.
Crazy. He's like, yeah, I have that. He's like, it's fucking just crazy stories, man. There's glass everywhere in my car, in my bed, everywhere. There's glass. I'm like, fuck.
I was on a tour with him in Japan for wrestling, and I always admired him because he chose the room. We had an Airbnb, and he had the room in the house. It wasn't the biggest room, but based on the power of the air conditioner and the size of the room, it was a room that could literally be made into a fucking freezer. It would be literally like 40 degrees in there.
Nice.
And Schlack would just be in there like under a blanket, like not moving, like, hey, what's up? So like I would just go in there and hang out sometimes because it was so refreshing just to like totally kind of reset yourself because it was the summer. And there was it wasn't like a emergency room, but the funny thing was everywhere you would go in this room, there would just be like an eggshell like over by the light switch or an eggshell on the windowsill because he's always just eating raw eggs for fucking protein or whatever the fuck. So that's the only like whatever downside. Or you just like because at first you're like, why is there fucking eggs all around here? Then you can imagine him like just laying there like under a blanket or a light blanket, just like
he's just cracking eggs.
Just remaining in a sloth-like state until it's
he's a ridiculously talented tattoo artist also.
Oh, incredible
bro.
Yeah, very a funny guy, a smart guy, but don't tell anybody.
And don't tell anybody. And he has bands, Eat the Turnbuckle.
And
Crack House is another band. Crazy.
Yeah, they have a big Eat the Turnbuckle documentary coming out. I have a tiny, I make a little tiny cameo in it. I say a few words at the end, but so check it out just for that. But
100%.
I hear good things about it, and Schlack offered to send me a screening copy, but I actually rebuffed him, telling him that I only want to see the copy that includes my 2-second part in it so that I can impress my girlfriend. You know what I mean?
There you go, of course.
If I'm going to sit here and watch a whole Eat the Turnbuckle, bloody wrestling hardcore film and subject my girl to it, at least if I get some shine in the last 30 seconds of the film.
You'll keep her in.
It's all, I'll keep her in. Like, yo.
That's fucking funny, man. So what's going on? See, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm like fucking Mr. Wrestling guy. So like, what's
Mr.
going
Wrestling
on?
Too.
Mr. Wrestling too. Remember the Invaders? Do you remember those guys?
Of course, I saw them wrestle in Whitestone, Queens. At the
I think I see them too. Yeah, Adrian Adonis. I saw fucking so many fucking people, man. So what's up with Circle 6? That's the guys you're working for now?
Yeah, like I work primarily for Circle 6, and we do shows all around the country. And then here in New York, I work for Outlaw Pro Wrestling, which runs out of Brooklyn and Queens. And then in New Jersey with Loud East Wrestling. But for Circle 6, LA is one of their hotbeds, and we're going to be back there July 14th. Oh, my bad. Houston, we're going to be back on July 14th for 7 days a week at the Premier Sports Arena in Houston. And then June 29th, Circle 6 will be back in LA doing the double dose. So what's interesting about Circle 6 is Circle 6 has like different brands under its heading. So for example, there's say if you're going to see Circle 6, you might just go see a traditional wrestling show. If you go see Circle 6 7 is all like every match is a death match. It's all like 10,000 shards of glass, like people getting thrown through stacks of windows and shit. Like it's a barbed wire, everything, people on fire.
Barbed wire, yeah.
So there's that style, and then they do no ring wrestling.
Oh fuck!
So that's just like imagine
brutal.
It's brutal as fuck. Imagine a bar or a concert venue or an outdoor music festival that it just turns into like back in the day in ECW when Tommy Dreamer and Primetime Brian Lee would go off and fight through the whole crowd for 15 minutes. It's that in a place there's no ring, so it's much more intimate. It's much more everyone's involved. It's like the hardcore show version of pro wrestling. And everybody from like Gangrel has done it. And Casanova Valentine is a guy out of Brooklyn who's like one of the big stars of it. So they're doing the double dose, which is a rare opportunity where they're going to do a Circle 6 event and a no ring event on the same night. So you get like a ring show and then like a no ring after party is the usual format. And then there's also, they do live bands. So they have a lot of great hardcore bands primarily, but sometimes some metal bands. We've had some great hardcore bands come play at Reggie's in Chicago and in LA at the Knucklehead Bar. So it's cool to me. Like I introduced the wrestlers and I introduced the bands. So like the other day in LA, and I'm sorry that I don't know the name of the band off my head.
That's fine.
It's a great band. I went to go introduce them. And the guy from the band, I think it was the bass player, he was wearing like a District 9 hat that it was the logo from the 7-inch. And like that logo was like Mike from District 9 had the idea sketched out, and he asked my girl, like, yo, can you just kind of make this from this sketch? So she did. And then it's just funny that he had like a modern hat from wherever with that on it. And it's just funny that I'm then introducing his band.
Yeah.
And I texted my girl a picture of the hat from the show, and I'm like, haha. And then I was like, I wonder if this guy even knows. And then like right before they went on,
he most likely doesn't.
Well, I was glad right before they went on, he came over and he's like, oh my God, dude, Kevin fucking Gill. Bro, when he takes off his hat and he showed, I was like, brother, I already know. I already clocked you, homie.
Nice.
I was like, you know what's up. But it's funny, a lot of these young bands, they know that era, and they know that style, and they know those bands. And I think a lot of that, of course, is the greatness of the bands and the recordings and all that. But that New York hardcore documentary, I think, helped turn a lot of people on to certain things. You know what I mean?
So crazy, right? How all that shit works. And like I said in the beginning, that shit's almost 30 years old.
Yeah, it's wild. But to finish answering your question about Circle Six, so Circle Six basically, it's more like the modern day ECW in that it's much more we don't give a fuck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're getting a pro event. Like, that's the funny thing. We don't give a fuck. But when you go to our events, unlike a lot of indie shows who have like a Radio Shack PA and a karaoke fucking microphone, and every ring announcement is cut, you know, all that horse shit. We don't do that. So we might have a bunch of scumfucks wrestling, but they're the best scumfucks, and it's a PA that bands play through, real bands play through. It's a fucking actual microphone. It's
right.
So you know what I mean? When the music hits, the music fucking hits. You know what I mean? When the fucking wrestlers hit, you're right there. Oh, and one thing to shout out on here too, for the crossover, is Outlaw Wrestling in Brooklyn is where Vinny Stigma has been making appearances.
Unbelievable.
As the commissioner. So there's been a bunch of footage. There's been a bunch of footage shot, and Vinny's been up to some wild antics. And I know Outlaw is trying to get stuff together to get it online so people can see it. And especially with Vinny's book coming up, I think it would be a great time for them to do that.
The most interesting man alive. Shout out Howie.
Yeah. Shout out to Vinny Stigma. Buy his book. But the work Vinny has done in Outlaw Wrestling, to say Vinny Stigma is a natural, to say he loves wrestling, all that stuff is absolutely true. Yeah. And he just kills it in every way. Like, he is fully integrated into the wrestling scene. He's one of the first people who shows up to the building. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't complain about it. You know, we take care of him, but he's just so happy to be there and ready to do his thing and wanting to make everything he does perfect. Yeah. And to stand there, sometimes I'll be the guy like going back and forth with them, or sometimes I'm just nearby, like I'll introduce them, but then I'll be nearby and just standing there like a fly on the wall, literally. Watching him just go off,
it's
and
so
the crowd, you know what I mean? It's
man. See, I need to know when he's going to do that again, because I need to see it. I've seen footage, but I need to be there.
Yeah, so hopefully once he gets back from Europe, I know Outlaw a lot of times takes off some of the summer months, but check out Outlaw Wrestling on Facebook and Instagram and that stuff, and they'll be back. But that was something I was really honored to help put together to make Vinny Stigma's wrestling dreams come true, and to also just help further cross over. Hardcore and wrestling are way more connected and crossed over now than they were when I first started trying to cross shit over. Sure. You know, back in those SFT Records day ads, I would have an ad for a 25 to Life record, but it's just the Pitbull from ECW holding a CD or whatever. You know what I mean? Right. Or Randy Savage dropping an elbow off the top rope, but it's our records. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would try to, the three-way dance, fucking to my knowledge, the first and only hardcore punk rock pro wrestling concept record.
Awesome. Fucking so cool.
It's so dumb.
I went to a couple of Outlaw Wrestling events, and I did actually way back. I don't know. It was way back. People watching or who was interested, you can go back. I don't know what episode number it is, but I was backstage and I did a short episode, probably about a half hour or so, with Bull James.
Oh, hell yeah. Bull James is a great guy, great wrestler. And someone I've known and worked with for years. He's featured a lot in Outlaw, and it's just great stuff there. And he does so many other things too. He was just on the road with that, what is it called? It's this wrestling musical. It's amazing. I literally saw it and it's amazing.
Really?
What's the name of it? Mickey James was in it. I mean, it's a full,
My favorite female wrestler ever.
a full musical with a wrestling ring in the middle, and the lights and the songs and the fucking wrestling. It was so great. What is it called? Maybe we can look it up. We'll put it in the description of the episode just to give them their due. But I can't believe I'm spacing on it. I can't type into my phone now.
What is it?
But anyway,
wrestling musical? Am I wrestling musical?
Yeah, just Google like wrestling musical. And even if you add Bull James to it, it'll probably pop right up.
All right. See, this is guerrilla podcasting. We're not fucking.
We don't have an assistant, a virtual producer.
The last match?
The last match. That's it.
A pro wrestling rock experience.
Right. Okay. Originally, it was branded as a musical. Now they call it a pro wrestling rock experience, which is fair.
Like a home video.
It is a rock band that's providing the. Yeah. It is a rock band that's the backbone of the musical part. But, you know, as someone who's seen every version of wrestling and music, I always love anyone that's doing something outside the box, and what the people with that musical did. And they did a whole tour. They did, God knows how many dates, like 30 dates or something of this musical. And I was blown away by it. So I think that you'll eventually see it on a bigger stage. You know what I mean? Because it's that damn good.
Huh. I got to check it out, man. That's fucking very cool. I never even heard about it. I never even heard about it until just now.
Yeah, they just came through. They were, it's podcast time, you know, but just a few weeks ago they were here, and they did New York City, or you know, Queens, New York, at a place with a great sound system and lights and all that shit.
Like
and
a legit place, like a place.
Yeah, like a venue,
a real venue, not a Chinese restaurant.
Right, a venue versus a room.
Right, there you go. Perfect. Exactly. So you are going down to Houston. When did you say again?
Houston is July 14th and LA's June 29th, and I'll be doing commentary and all that.
Are you going to be around, barring any unforeseen last minute trips out, on Sunday, June 23rd?
Well, is that the day of a certain mythical event in Brooklyn?
Yes, sir.
So, because the problem is, it sounds like there's only tickets at the door, so I can't buy a ticket in advance. But then I don't want to show up and just sweat from doors open until the leeway.
How about this? I might know the guy that put the show on, so I might save a wristband for you.
Okay, well that's great. Then I want to be there, and my only hope is that in a room that crowded, that they will be able to somehow squeeze me into it.
We'll get you in. You're Kevin fucking Gill.
Well, it's for Eddie Leeway, man. And obviously I'm happy to pay for the pause. I just want to be able to have
access, it's a $20 donation. And so I will throw this all out there, because I mean, I said we said we were going to speak about Leeway and shit like that anyway. But so if people aren't aware, because maybe there's a little bit of a different demographic that's listening to this who doesn't normally listen to this podcast because you're the guest, the singer for legendary New York hardcore / crossover band Leeway, his real name was Eddie Pomponio. A lot of people don't even know that. Everyone thinks his last name was really Eddie Sutton. It's not, but everyone called him either Eddie Sutton, or majority of people just used to just call him Eddie Leeway.
Yeah, agreed.
So, but he passed away from a battle, cancer, on April 19th of this year. And I booked several shows, probably somewhere close to 30 different shows at Lucky 13 a while ago. The last show that I booked was like 4 years ago, and then I had other things going on. So it's like, whatever. I only did it because I love to do it. I did a lot of benefit shows and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what? So once he was my friend for a very, very, very long time. One of my favorite bands, like I said earlier, the band that got me into hardcore. And Eddie used to always tell me, because I told him, he was been on this podcast a couple of times, and Eddie always would apologize to me because he knew that his band was the one that got me into hardcore. He's like, I apologize.
Sorry, I ruined your life.
Yes, I'm sorry, I ruined your life, B.
Yeah, I ruined your life, B.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
So I reached out to a couple of bands, and I reached out to Lucky 13, and I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about putting something together. And I got in touch with Eddie's two sisters, Tracy and Linda, and I spoke with them, and everything is all on the up and up. Every single dime, minus the couple of bucks it is for the sound guy and whatever. Every single dime that comes in that venue is going to his sisters to help out with things that happen when a loved one passes. So that will be on Sunday. It's, you know, in the feel of the old school matinee, just not as early.
Yes.
It's the doors are at 3:00. The first band is on at 4. It's at Lucky 13 Saloon at 644 Sackett Street. It's a $20 donation at the door, and it is not my call, but it's 21 and over. It's not an all ages show for whatever reasons. It's not my venue and whatever. The bands are from the first band going up. The first band is called Moment of Truth. They've been around for a really long time. My boy Jay is a singer. And here's just something that the impact and the respect that Eddie is getting. One of the members of Moment of Truth is coming all the way from Colorado.
Wow.
Play for 20 minutes as the first band on. That says a lot. You know what I mean? So Moment of Truth, then Silence Equals Death, which is a great band from Jersey. They've played probably 7 or 8 of different of my shows. Then another great band, the Ice Cold Killers, is playing. And then Fire is Murder, and Artie, the guitar player for Fire is Murder, was one of the guys that played with Eddie for years, several years before Eddie passed. Eddie wound up living with Artie for the last 3 years of his life before he went into hospice. And then now the reason why Fire is Murder is where they are is because a lot of those guys are going to be playing instruments because we're doing a Leeway tribute set. Rotating guitar players, rotating musicians with several different singers. I would say everybody, but I just don't want to. And I'm really hoping to get this one person that I'm waiting to get that green light from. And if that one person, I'll be satisfied, and I won't ever have to book another show ever.
Wow.
Yeah. Then I reached out to Anthony Comunale from Killing Time, and he was like, let me just ask the guys. He's like, I wouldn't be opposed to doing the first Token Entry 7-inch, because he sang on the first Token Entry 7-inch, which is Ready or Not, Here We Come. So I'm like, okay, like Token Entry wants to do the first 7-inch. It's be short, like 15, 20 minutes, but the first you want to do that? Like, okay, you're in. So he's like, just give me a day or two. And then he got back to me. He's like, we're all in. So it's it's Moment of Truth, Silence Equals Death, the Ice Cold Killers, Fire is Murder, a Leeway tribute set, a short set by Token Entry, and headlining is Killing Time. So I mean, all of that for $20. Plus, it's a great cause for, and you know, I say it to say this. It's like at the end of the night, you know, I hope whatever I helped, because I'm not just taking all the credit. I came up with the idea, but all the bands are stepping up and everyone's stepping up and doing things behind the scenes. So I can't just take all the credit. But at the end of the night, I just hope that monetarily and just all of our efforts, I want to be able to get in my car and drive back to my apartment knowing that I did the right thing and I honored and in a respectful way, my friend.
Hell yeah, man.
And that's all that's all I want to do. And I had no intentions of booking any more shows, but I felt compelled to do this. Will I do another show after this? Probably not. But I just felt the need that I just needed to do this. You know?
Yeah, it's an important cause, and to, you know, just to have that moment, to have that day to celebrate Eddie's life again, and to have everyone get together, and you know, that Leeway tribute set is obviously a huge draw for me personally, just to experience Leeway music live in any form again. Yeah. And then of course Killing Time, Token Entry, and everyone you listed, man. That shit's gonna be great. And
it's going to be these guys that are doing this stuff, it's going to be the second to last time you'll ever hear this stuff, because it's going to happen at Lucky 13, and then a week or two after, they're doing a tribute set as well at This Is Hardcore in Philly. After that, just blast Leeway. You know what I mean? Then you got your Leeway records and your Rights records. You know what I mean? So So yeah, it's going to be. I know I've been speaking with all the guys that are doing the tribute set, and especially the guys that played with Eddie for the last few years of his life. It's going to be like an emotional thing, dude. You know what I mean? It really is, and it's going to be all in good taste, and there's not going to be no riffraff, and it's just going to be a bunch of people having a good time. So if anyone could make it, please feel free to make it. There's no, of course, there's a capacity to the place, but we're going to try our best to get everybody in there.
Sure, and as people leave, some people want to leave early, then some more people can come in.
Right, exactly. So
stick around,
Stick around. Listen, you don't have to be inside for every single bit. You want to hang out outside, just come and show your support. There's going to be a big raffle package. There's going to be a 50-50, drawing. I think the first 50 people that show up, we got these rubber, it's green and white because of the Desperate Measures colors. It's a rubber wristband. It says in memory of Eddie Sutton. It's a rubber one. You put remember the bicycle guy,
Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, that guy. It was kind of along those lines. So I'm going to give out for the first 50 people, they'll get one of them, and it's just it'll be a good time. So once again, that's Sunday, June 23rd, 3 p.m. doors, 21 and over, $20 at the door. Come hang out, have a good time, have a few beers, do whatever you want to do, and so just fucking have a good time, and that's that.
And be loud.
And be loud. You got to be loud. You got to be loud. So good, man. All 4 of those Leeway records I love. Even Ed was like, Adult Crash is always the weakest one. And I agree with him, but there are some
But it's still great.
There's such great songs on that. They tried something different, and I understand. I appreciate that record more and more as I got older.
I love it, dude. The songwriting on it is incredible.
Yes.
Like, the first time I ever heard it, I felt like I had because it was out in Europe for a while before it came out here. And I'd gotten a copy of it from Europe, and I thought there was something like I had an advanced copy or it wasn't the final mix or something.
Yeah.
But that was my only thing when I first heard it. But then the songwriting and the performances, it's so fucking good, man.
It's so good. It's so good. It's just, but just being younger and
compared to the other 3, if you have to look at it that way.
Right. You're coming off of Born to Expire, then Desperate Measures. Then you have Adult Crash, which is they went from a 5-piece to a 4-piece.
Sure.
Then you have a different sound. So it's like, okay. But then
that's how they got to the mind-blowing Open Mouth, because that shit's fucking mind-blowing. You couldn't have got there without Adult Crash. Exactly. Adult Crash is the Join the Army of Leeway.
There you go.
People sleep on Join the Army by Suicidal Tendencies, but it is in fact a fucking mind-blowing fucking record. But it's different. But that's how Suicidal got to How Will I Laugh Tomorrow.
There you go. Sick. That's an awesome fucking little analogy there.
When you think about it, though, it's true. And then that's how Leeway got to Desperate Measures. You know what I mean? It took that creative exploration and doing something different. And they would play those songs live off Adult Crash, and people would lose their fucking minds.
Yo, insane. You mentioned Suicidal Tendencies again. You say, How Will I Laugh Tomorrow? I'm going on this crazy ass road trip in July because I do this whole Delta Bravo urban exploration team with Danny Boy from House of Pain. This whole you probably see all my shit that I put up.
Sure.
But I'm going on, bro. I'm a psychopath, bro. I got this crazy itinerary of this crazy road trip I'm going on with my daughter, and I found it's gone though, but I know the footprint. I'm pissed because you go into Google Maps and it was there like 6 months ago, and then I looked again and it's an empty lot. I was fucking crushed. But the opening of the video for the song How I Laugh Tomorrow, they go into that house and there's graffiti all over the house.
Yeah.
And Mike Muir's in his bedroom with the mattress on the ground. But that I found the exact address to that house. So I'm going to visit that.
You know what I found, but I haven't gone to see it yet. Is on the back cover of How Will I Laugh Tomorrow, they're standing in front of that gate.
It's like a Greek Orthodox church or something.
Yes. In LA. Like, I have the address. I tried to get, there was this group of wrestlers. They were like an outlaw group of wrestlers, and they were into metal and shit. And I was like, yo, we got to, and we would go to LA a lot. And I was like, we got to get a promo photo of you guys at that spot. You know what I mean? But it never happened. But I still want to go there. But you know how it is between getting something to eat and going to the hotel or going to the airport.
Yeah.
Things like going to the graveyard often fall by the wayside.
Exactly. Well, shout out to my friend Danny Johnson, who is a member of this ridiculous exploration team that I'm a part of. He actually got it. I'll send you the picture, because what we do, we like overlay it. Like we'll take the picture from the record and we'll superimpose it right on top of the picture that we take, and we line it up like a before and after the same shot. But my friend Danny, he's got that, and he was like, yeah, they're like, when you go onto that property, like you got to be like, you have to like trespass, bro. Like they don't want you there and shit, but
right,
you do these things in order to get you shot.
Yeah. I found like a thing about it online where they were saying that like if the gates open, like you could just go up and do it, but then if it's not open,
that's when you get into, it's like you get into
the breaking and entering.
Yeah. Something. Listen, we trespass sometimes, you know, in order to do this shit that we do. But it's fun. It gets me out of the neighborhood. It last 3 summers I go on these crazy road trips and go from, I mean, all kinds of shit, from movies, music videos, to true crime spots, to all kinds of shit.
Is that road trip going to allow you to attend Jimmy G's annual birthday cruise that our friends at rocksoft.com are putting together?
What's the date? I hope I don't say no, but what's the date?
What is same thing? I can't access any of my shit.
I'm leaving.
August.
Yes.
It's like early, or I forget. It's on rocksoft.com right now, but it's the Jimmy G. But if you can make it, at least to your listeners, celebrate Jimmy G on a 3-hour cruise around Manhattan. Get up close and personal with the Statue of Liberty. Visit the multiple bars. Eat the food, and most importantly, Murphy's Law Live. Celebrate Jimmy. What else can you say?
Dude, I saw Murphy's Law on a boat probably about 10 years ago, and it is so much fucking fun, dude. You're on a boat, and everyone's going crazy, and the boat's going, and you'll hit a little bit of a wave, and everybody starts tripping and fall. It's so much fucking fun, man. You know, it was like no redeeming and like Murphy's Law on a boat. It's
wow.
It's like, how do you not do that? How do you not go to that?
Right.
Yeah.
So this time, I don't know if anyone else is playing. I know they announced Murphy's Law, but I've got to see. That's
all you need.
I've gotten to see Murphy's Law so many times, but I've never seen them on a boat. And I always wanted to come to New York just for the boat show, but it never worked out when I was living out west.
Yeah.
So now I'm back, and I'm going to Jimmy's boat show.
There you go. You know what? If it's in August, I'll be there, because I come back. I'm leaving for like 2 weeks. I'm leaving on July 5th. I'm coming back the 20th.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, you'll be.
So I'll be around.
Yeah, I feel like it's the first week of August. I wish I could remember. But again, to all our intrepid listeners, rocksoft.com has you covered. They have some other dope shows coming up too, but that's one that really stands out to me.
Nice. Now, what's up with the Kevin Gill Show? Are you bringing it back? Are you done with it? What's the deal?
It would be fun to bring it back. I felt like it was one of those things like SFT Records. Like I thought that if I just did something at a pro level and did it long enough and did it big enough, that people would notice, and I could just become a part of something bigger. I could be absorbed into some, you know what I mean? Just like a way, plug me into some bigger network or whatever. But it was always just me. Do you know what I mean? So, and you know how it is. Like there was times people would come in and help me, which I appreciate. But the part that would get me was like when it would be like, oh, I just went to this place and I got this amazing like or hour long or whatever interview with someone. Then having to go home and sit and like clean up the interview, then record. I would always do these like super involved intros and outros to each episode, and then clean that up, and then do the write up on it, and then fucking make clips of it, and then write what they're saying in the clips and send it places. And it's just like it just becomes so much time that like there was a time where like when you would press the send button and it went up. Like that was it. You were like, yo, I'm done. Like go outside, like pop open a beer, whatever. But it just became so much. And then like it never became like I always just thought like I've shared a thing on Facebook today where it was like 9 years ago today. And it was listing what are the most listened to episodes of my podcast. And it was just a who's who of hardcore and pro wrestling. I remember it was John Joseph was on there from the Cro-Mags, Matt Hardy. Like it was just 10 super big names across wrestling and music, and I'm like, look at this shit recorded in person, these like long form open, like not your typical like press interview, but like where you're really getting stories out of the people and getting them to lower their guard, whatever. So I love conducting interviews. I love talking to people. I love vibing with people. I love helping tell people's story.
Same.
I just don't love all that other stuff so much. So then, after a while, it just became like, oh my God. Then I was like, I kept getting to what I thought were these different plateaus. And then I was coming up on my 100th episode, and I had like there's a famous wrestling team called the Young Bucks. And I finally
I'm familiar with them.
They're like at the time, I mean, they're still very popular, but at that time they were a total independent phenomenon. They were not signed to any company, but their merchandise was sold by volume in Hot Topic and other places. It was they were like a counterculture kind of thing in a really cool way. And I forget why I brought up the Young Bucks now.
The podcast you were.
Oh yeah, so I had them. I had like I forget what the episodes were all around 100. Were just fucking hit after hit after hit, like the comedian Ralphie May, like all these famous fucking people doing the full blown KG interview, and I'm like, this has got to get me to the something. Like, could I just have the show, like just throw me a few hundred a week or a month and stick me on whichever one of these stupid platforms, like you know what I mean? But I wanted to just be able to like record the show, and then someone else could sit and then fucking edit it and fucking transcribe it and all this shit that just it would become like. So then after a while I was just like, in hindsight, I probably should have just kept it going, because they always say like, oh, right before a breakthrough is when you always give up. But then sometimes I would just become frustrated because you'd see other people would come out, they'd like be a guest on a podcast or something, and then suddenly some platform is like, hey, we're paying this person to do this content or whatever. And it's like, hi. And plus it's like the lost art of the interview in some ways. I feel like it feels like the interview is a lost art form in a lot of ways. And I liked being able to, one thing I think a lot about now is, so would I ever do a podcast again? Absolutely. I would love to just be a part of something rather than be my own island in the sea.
Sure.
But what was I going to say?
Would you do?
No, I had something right before that, but I switched off to say that I would do it again, and then I forgot.
I do it constantly.
But yeah, like I have nothing against. Oh, I was gonna say I often think about going back and just getting some clips and like putting photo montages to them or little animations or footage, because there's so much gold there from people who are now either super famous WWE or AEW wrestlers, people who are still super hardcore icons and luminaries and shit like that. You know what I mean? It's just wild. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there, man. But it was fun. But it was the same thing as SFT. It was like just totally DIY, like just putting it out into the world, and you see it growing and growing. But then, like I said, that's the only part I didn't fully get. But maybe if I had a manager or an agent or someone who was out shopping me, or I knew who I should be shopping myself to, I always just think like, oh, I'll just put up the numbers. Like at that time when I was in the height of doing the podcast, like Rolling Stone did an article about the golden age of wrestling podcasts. And I think they named like 5 podcasts, and then it was me. I was one. It was me.
That's on your IMDb page.
Yeah. Like, but that's a huge, and again, everyone else is in some way, shape or form, part of something else. A big company's writing a check, or it's on some platform. You know what I mean? Like my shit was, the platform was my URL. Do you know what I mean? So, like I said, and then I thought, I don't know. I guess I should have just made a reel of myself interviewing people and try to get a job somewhere doing it. But I foolishly thought if I just put out hundreds of fucking interviews, maybe someone will make that.
Yeah.
I
get that mindset too. I get that. Like when I first started this thing, I was like, let's just do it. And then for a little while, I was like, maybe. I never expect anything. I always came into everything I do. I'm like, if something happens, cool. If not, that's cool too. Like I don't expect I have a job.
Fun.
You know what I mean? It's fun.
I had so much fun putting the episodes down. You know what I mean? Like sitting there and doing these interviews, and the fact that everyone was recorded in person, so sometimes it made it logistically challenging where you're at a venue and you have to find a quiet hallway. Or...
I did that all the way up until COVID lockdowns. Everything was in person. I would run from work. I would try to find a spot to go. I'm doing one with Paulie from Sheer Terror. We're in a diner. We're right next to the kitchen. You hear nothing but glasses and silverware crashing. I do
one of these.
Yes, very similar. Yep.
Right. It is the old school one.
Yep. I'm with Walter from Quicksand and Gorilla Biscuits. We go, he's like, oh, let's meet up at this spot. It's like a juice spot. We're sitting there every 32 seconds. The flames are going off. It's just like, it's crazy. Mike Judge, I'm in a diner. That you hear the waitress, we put our order in with the waitress. Like, some people love that shit, but I didn't care.
No,
like, I'm not trying to be sterile, and I don't have questions. I just like to just shoot the shit, man. And I've had conversations and met up with people I never in a million years would even talk to. Like, I found myself in this little weird like chicken spot in Williamsburg, sitting there having a one-on-one conversation with Havoc from Mobb Deep.
Wow.
I'm like, this is fucking cool. Like, this little dude, I'm like, yeah, he didn't want to drink. I bought him a ginger ale. I'm like, yeah, I bought Havoc from Mobb Deep a ginger ale. And we're sitting there bullshitting. Like, just cool shit like that doesn't pay off enough for me, bro. I'm you know, I don't look for, I have a regular job. I do this shit because I enjoy it. I talk to people that I respect. I like what they do. You know, talk or wrestling or graffiti or movies, an actor or whatever. So I just talk to whoever the fuck, you know, whoever's willing to hear me babble like I am now.
It's all good, brother. It's been fun to chop it up and to spread the word, to spread the gospel, man. Yeah. Hardcore still lives. Yeah. Pro wrestling is still awesome. Pro wrestling is like the ultimate DIY art form in the same sense like music. You know, you could see a band play at a CBGB's type venue, or you could see a band play at Madison Square Garden. They're both bands. It's still music, and that's the way wrestling is. And going to see wrestling, and it's great to go see it in the big buildings, but when you go see it in these smaller buildings where you could be up close and you know what I mean, you could just it's more like when you go see a band. So it's cool that places like Outlaw and Circle 6 running in the cities they run in, they draw a lot of people that are just nightlife fans or fans of like going to the bar and having drinks with their friends. And then there's this awesome fucking thing happening around us. Like those people always have a fucking blast because they can't believe how insane the show is. Like most people who've never watched wrestling in person think like, oh, it's wrestling. I'm going to go there and guys are going to be like, I'm hitting you. I'm hitting you. I'm hitting you. And it's not, that's not what wrestling, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Overall, that's not what wrestling is. And when you're watching what these people do, one time, one take, no rewinds, no do-over. And I've been on movie sets and stuff where wrestlers were in movies and they would do a stunt in, you know, the context of their performance. And then all the stunt department would be like, what the fuck? Like, wait. Because that guy just took away like 2 days work for them to do this one little thing. And I'm not knocking professional stunt people, but you know, it's the difference between the Hollywood mind state and the wrestling mind state. You know what I mean? The wrestling mind state is very one time, you know, tape costs money, you know what I mean? Yeah, where Hollywood's like, oh, I feel like we have to blow up the helicopter one more time.
Insane. It's very true, man. Yeah, man. So by the way, did you wind up playing your Agnostic Front record?
I still I was talking about it last night. I said that I was like, I know somewhere on the internet, I know someone has encoded the new issue, the Legacy edition, and I hope someone sends it to me because I bought the fucking record. I own it. I just don't want to even put a needle on it at this time. I want to hear the work that Don Fury did. I want to hear this remastering in all its glory. I have a turntable, but
you don't want to put the needle on it. I don't blame you.
I don't know if they're ever going to put, and I understand why they might not, like if they're ever going to put this edition on, I don't even use Spotify, but put it on Amazon or iTunes, a streaming service where I could just buy it as a $9.99 album or whatever, just to have it. I'm dying to hear it. Like the clips I heard in the promotion of it really spoke to me, and like I'm like, Argh. Like hear that, Roger? I'm ready to pay $9.99 digital right now.
100%. Roger.
New York Hardcore.
It's on here too. I spoke to a Generation. He's like, we'll definitely do it. I just need time. I'm like, all right.
Oh yeah, and
I'm not gonna break your balls over it. You're a busy dude. I get it.
Roger was on the Kevin Gill Show. Roger, Stigma, Pokey. AF was on. Stigma was on twice, I think, and then Roger and the band was on once.
Nice.
But just that's like a dream. The idea of that, where I'm like driving the car, like, yo, I'm going to interview Roger from AF. You know what I mean?
It's fucking awesome. I did one with Vinny, two with Vinny. One of them was on the stage. Vinny always wants to do it with Mike Gallo. I got to do it with Mike Gallo.
Yeah.
It's fine. So we did it once on the stage at Lucky 13. It was me and Mike Gallo and Vinny. And then I went to Vinny's apartment. And
I did one there too.
Yeah, and it's just he's wearing like these wooden clogs that he got from like Sweden, and he's pouring wine and he's smoking cigars. It's just,
he's the best.
He opens up the window for no reason. He just opens up the window and he
looks out.
He's like, everyone shut up. I'm about to do an interview with Jimmy Ferrari. And he closes the window. It's like what's happening right now? It's hilarious. The best.
What a great guy. And I love that for people who are watching this and don't know, like, when you go back through hardcore history, you'll hear different people like Craig from Sick of It All who'll say like they were a little kid coming to hardcore shows, and Vinny Stigma will be like, "Hey, how you doing? You good? You all right? Good. Yeah, you're my boy, whatever." Then he'd always look out for him or look after him, go out of his way to say hi to him and talk to him or whatever, and told him like, "Hey, you're going to be my bass player one day," you know? But the idea that there are these people that weren't there to try to hurt you, weren't there to try to take from you. They were just literally there to be your friend, there to help welcome you in, to be you know, that's just, you know, think about that shit, especially in a world now of where that's a selfless thing to do.
Yeah.
And we live now in such a selfish world that it becomes even more of like a paradox of how powerful and iconic Vinny is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
100%. Yeah.
And he's still that dude. Like, he's Vinny Stigma. Like, nothing has changed in the best way possible.
Absolutely. The best.
Oh my God, dude. You're getting me fired up talking about Vinny.
Yeah, everyone. You talk about Vinny. We can talk about Vinny all day long. It's crazy.
But I can't wait till everybody gets to see all this footage of Vinny from Outlaw Wrestling, because he's done like at least 3 as of this time appearances for them. All of them resulted in melees. Do you know what I mean? There was a lot of Stigma. No shortage of words and no shortage of physical action. There was he did like the Superfly Jimmy Snuka did as well. You know what I mean? Which is fair. Once you're north of 60, no one's expecting you to go to the top rope. A second rope Superfly could be quite acceptable.
Vinny Stigma is a character, boy.
Amen. Through and through.
Yeah. Fuck. Well, dude, you're standing there. How your legs feel? You all right?
Oh, it's good. Yeah, it's weird. I try to go out of my way to never stand for so long, but it's actually it's quite comfortable because I can shift my weight around and stuff.
There you
know
go.
what I mean?
Very cool.
So it's not like I'm just flat-footed, like
standing on line.
But soon I'll have like a set. I'll aspire to have some sort of a area that's just a chair and some cool stuff on the wall, all in the same place.
Yeah, I'm sitting in my bedroom. I don't care. My fanciness is black and white. Cool. Yeah, that's it. I have a little Sick of It All poster over here. I have shit you can't see, but my whole apartment's all record, Sick of It All shit, and
fuck yeah,
all kinds of.
This is my office, which is almost all wrestling shit. There's that one, you can't see it, but that one white poster up there is Rancid and Sick of It All together.
Nice.
With the was it Rancid, Sick of It All, and the Transplants? No, Rancid, Sick of It All, and the Interrupters.
Okay.
And I introduced Sick of It All to the stage that night. And that was in California. I forget where it was. Somewhere in Southern California at the Music Festival.
Nice.
But almost everything in my office is wrestling stuff and Thing, you know, that guy, The Thing from Fantastic Four. But then in the living room and stuff, there's more music stuff.
Gotcha.
So don't let it be thought that I have a framed picture of a framed autographed promo photo of Leeway from Born to Expire.
Nice.
Hanging up in my living room. I have a Suicidal promo from the same time period. Some Murphy's Law shit, SFT shit. I got some couple of things. I got an awesome, you know, that Sick of It All AF, that tour poster where it looks like a playing card.
Yes.
Yeah, that shit. I got that shit.
I have the shirt. I don't have the poster.
Oh, there's a shirt of that?
Yes.
Oh, I never saw that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hold on. I know exactly where it is.
Whoa.
Please hold. Hold on.
I can't believe there's a shirt of that shit.
Is it? Oh wait, no wait. Maybe it's
It
not.
might be.
It's maybe it isn't. Maybe I lied. It's an Agnostic Front Sick of It All tour. It was
wow.
It was December 11th, 12th, 13th, and 15th. This was the 5-borough tour.
Oh wow.
So
Wait,
it
AF
was
played those shows too? Oh my god. So wait, it was AF and Sick of It All together did that 5-borough tour?
yeah.
I thought it was
No,
just
well
Sick
maybe
of
it wasn't the 5-borough tour, but I was at the
okay.
Electric tour. I was at the Barry Electric show.
Wow.
And that's where they filmed the video for Urban Decay.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I always look for myself in it, but I don't see myself in it. But I was
you can barely see me in the Foot the Bill music video and barely in the there's a quicksand video that was filmed at Wetlands.
Dying Alone.
And everybody just has t-shirts on and the black t-shirts or whatever. And I happen to have like a purple Gorilla Biscuits long sleeve on. And I feel like it's shot in black and white or something. And I have long arms. And you just see me like pointing or something like with this long ass purple shirt on in the sea of black shirts.
Yeah.
But
Slip is one of my favorite albums of all time.
Oh my god, dude!
Across any genre of music.
I love the 7-inch from Revelation got me started
of
on
course.
that.
Yeah, everybody. But then Slip came out. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah,
and
like the
there's a lot of nostalgia and a lot of really good times surrounding that album as well. That helps it along. Yeah. Now I'm going to ask you one stupid question and then we'll wrap up. It has to be, you'll be like, oh, this one again. I have to ask you, gun to your head, your favorite all-time wrestler, dead or alive. One person. Who is it?
Bruiser Brody.
Sick. Okay.
The icon, the legend, rest in peace. Yeah, because it was one and dead or alive, that amount of restrictions made it easier for me to answer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I love Bruiser Brody, man. Like, I wish I had gotten to see him wrestle in person, but I've watched him extensively on tape.
Oh, and he fucking legendary.
Like, I try to limit anything I collect, but the only things I collect are Bruiser Brody stuff, Terry Funk stuff, and Thing stuff. That's it. So with hardcore shit. So I have a few Bruiser Brody like rare figures from Japan and shit like that just to honor him. I've met his widow. I'm just such a fan of him and what he represented and all that shit, man.
Yeah. Okay.
He's like one of a kind. And he was the forerunner of the outlaw, the true outlaw style where he, blood and guts. And if a promoter tried to short him on money or whatever, he wouldn't have it. Like he was very much like, fuck you, fuck you, pay me in a good way. And sometimes you need that.
Yeah, 100%.
When you're dealing with scumbag promoters,
1,000%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not mad at that answer at all. Awesome.
But there's so many other, you know what I mean? If you talked about, who inspired you or who influenced, then it's like I have 800,000.
It's like your Mount Rushmore. It's like, come on.
That's so hard. Yeah.
It's so hard. And I've asked that question. I've been asked that question before, but it's like, okay, now I'm going to go. You can't take, because obviously you want Mount Rushmore. There's been a hell of a lot more wrestlers than presidents, so it can't just be 4.
Right. And same with bands too.
I think that like a tag team needs to be represented, and then maybe
several singles.
There has to be. So I'm thinking more like 8 people. You know what I mean?
That's a fair amount. And then you could also be. Is it a Mount Rushmore of WWE? Is it a Mount Rushmore of independent wrestling? Is it a Mount Rushmore of extreme wrestling? Is it a Mount Rushmore of ECW? Is it a Mount Rushmore of WCW? Like,
it can get very fucking deep. Yeah, it can get very convoluted and crazy. Yeah,
it sure can, man. But I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and chop it up,
dude. I appreciate
spread the gospel of KG to some extent.
Yeah, awesome, dude. I like I said, I was like, you got to come on. You were like, let's do it, and that was it. And I got held up at work or some shit, and there was someone called out, so he couldn't do it last week. But here we are, and dude, we're almost 2 hours in. Go figure.
Wow, we went all the way.
We went all the way, bro.
Good thing I charged my phone.
There you go. But listen, if anytime like you have anything else going on, if you feel like shooting the shit with me, just hit me up.
Sure.
We can do this whenever you want. hopefully I'll see you on the 23rd. And
yeah.
As soon as we're done, I'm going to send this off to my guy. Within a couple of days, it'll be up. You'll be tagged and everything. That's when I'll put up the flyer and, you know, the whole thing. The only thing I ever say on this, first of all, I have to shout out my one and only sponsor. It's Generation Records at 210 Thompson Street down in the West Village in New York City. Follow them on Instagram at Generation Records. And the only thing I ever ask, because the podcast group is on Facebook, the Brooklyn Blast Furnace, but like 4 years ago, my Instagram account was hacked and I do not have access to it. But I mentioned briefly that I wrote a book. So I made an Instagram for that. Now it's like a dual thing for this. And I'm not making another fucking Instagram. I've had it with all that shit. So if you just go on Instagram at Relatively Unscathed, that's where you'll find podcast stuff and book stuff, which right now it's in the hands of my editor, so there's not a lot of that going on. But that's where you'll find the podcast. Relatively Unscathed on Instagram.
You heard the man. And check me out. I'm on all social media, OG Kevin Gill, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And you can always see what I'm up to. And, you know, whatever, besides wrestling commentary and hosting, if someone needs an interviewer, if someone needs a host for whatever, an event or an interview series or whatever, you need a voiceover for your trailer. You've heard my dulcet tones have been heard everywhere on Sirius Satellite Radio to Vice Television. To I could go on and fucking on over here.
On and fucking on over here.
Hey, what do you want me to tell you? But holler at your boy KG. I'm out here grinding, and thanks for the opportunity. Support everyone who supports me, and keep that PMA. Stay up, stay gold.
Much respect, my man. Be safe, brother.
Yay, yay.
Peace.